Atomic Monsoon.
Welcome to the Monsoon.
It's Atomic Monsoon.
It is.
It is.
Poke, poke. It is.
It's alive.
It's alive.
No, it's a podcast, actually.
It is.
It is a podcast.
It's a pre-recorded podcast.
Oh, wait. Does that mean we don't have to say anything and it's already done?
I don't think that's how that works.
Okay.
That's not how the Force works.
Wait, this is the Force now?
I don't know anymore. I'm confused.
I'm so confused. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Oh, I'm okay. Well, the world is nuts outside around us right now, but that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Things are happening. Things are changing for the better. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. Hey, so we had a lot of fun talking about Strangers in Paradise last week.
We did.
And then I did lend you a couple of the next couple of volumes. I was wondering if you had gotten into those at all.
To be honest, I had not this week, but they are downloaded, so you can do your thing now. So, but and remove them from your drive. But
yeah, that's fine. No, I was just I thought it would be a nice follow up to see if I know you I gave you the others. Just curious to see if you'd started them.
They have been sitting open on my computer for like a week now, and I'm like, I'm going to read it every single night. I keep telling myself I'm going to read it, and then me and my husband started doing workouts again, and then after workouts, all I want to do is just lay face first on my bed and go, I'm out of shape.
That is totally understandable.
So,
yeah. I did start reading the thing we're going to talk about next week. So,
yay! Is it next week or the week after?
I don't know. One of those two. Hey guys, we're going to take a week off coming up soon because it's going to be the anniversary of my dad's passing, and I'm usually a mess that weekend, so I don't know what the date is right now. It's June 2020. It's been a while. The last few years I've just been an absolute wreck. So I'm going to miss an episode. Steph, if you and if Josh if you guys can work out a time to record something, that would be great. If not, hey guys, we might miss a week coming up here in June. So I apologize, but I got to take care of myself as well.
Yes.
So yeah.
So self-care is important.
Yeah. So let's talk about things that happened in the past.
In the past, like 10 years or so, like
Sure.
Def M Records making our awesome music.
Hey, that did happen within the last 10 years. In fact, basically all of Def M Records happened in the last 10 years.
No way.
Yeah. So, hey guys, if you liked the cool intro music that you heard at the start of the show, you can go to Def M Records, DEAFMRECORDS.com and find yourself some great new music.
Do it.
Yes, and you can follow them on the social medias. They're also Def M Records on Twitter and Facebook, so you can do that. And you can follow us on the social media, Atomic Monsoon at Twitter and Facebook, and with the underscore between the two words on Instagram. And if you have questions or suggestions, you can email us atomicmonsoon@gmail.com, and you can get fun things from our Redbubble store. And please rate, review, and subscribe to us on whatever your favorite podcast aggregator is.
Do it.
Do it. But yeah, I thought, we had been doing the list of movies by decade for a little while here. And, we realized, hey, there's one decade that we've both lived through that we haven't talked about yet. And it's the one that just ended a few months ago.
Yep. It's the 2010s.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about them, and we're going to talk about some of our favorite movies and, the thing we've been doing the last several episodes.
Indeed.
Do you want to go first this week, or should I go first, or how do you feel about that?
I can go first.
All right.
So
what do you got?
All right. Are we doing honorable mentions? I can't remember.
I didn't write any down, but we did the whole episode on the MCU, and those are the biggest, most profitable movies of the decade. So
go check out our episode where we talked about those.
Yeah. We still should maybe do one where we talk about Spider-Man Homecoming or Far From Home, because we didn't talk about that one But whatever. Hey, that's a good movie too. There's my honorable mention. Go watch the Spider-Man movie that came out last year.
Do it.
Yeah.
So okay. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and do my first one.
Okay.
So my first one is it was the movies no one expected to be as good as they are. And I say that because I was watching a Watch Mojo, which is a YouTube channel, and they were talking about like the top 10, misleading trailers and how the trailer looked really, really good, but the movie was really, really bad. Well, this was an example of where the trailer looked kind of but the movie was fantastic, and that is Kingsman, the Kingsman movies.
Okay.
Both of them.
Yeah. Those are the those weird action movies set in England based on comics by Mark Miller.
I did not realize they were based on comics.
Yeah. Mark Miller, who wrote like Kick-Ass and Old Man Logan and The Ultimates, which is loosely what the Avengers movie is based on. Yeah. He wrote that, and I want to say it was Dave Gibbons who drew it, the artist for the original Watchmen comic.
Hey, all right.
I'm pretty sure it was Dave Gibbons. I might be mistaken. I should look that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually haven't seen those movies, so tell me about them.
So the Kingsman movies, and I'll just talk about the first one because I love both of them. Both of them are really funny. They're very action packed. They're very they definitely take an interesting spin on the spy genre that we're so used to seeing with like James Bond and now Mission Impossible and all that stuff.
Sure. It was Dave Gibbons. Okay.
It was Dave Gibbons. Okay.
Yeah.
But the first movie is about this kid who kind of grew up a bit of a troublemaker because his dad was a part of the Kingsman service, and then his dad ended up like dying in like the very first scene of the movie.
So yeah, and the Kingsmen are like the Kingsmen are like the English version of the American Secret Service, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
like a government officials, like there to protect the royal family or whatever. More or less. Yeah.
More or less, like protect the royal family, protect the world, stuff like that.
Okay, government agency.
Government agency stuff, yeah. Okay. But the kid, his name is Eggsy. And they flash forward to when he's a bit older, like 18, 19 years old, 20, I think almost. He gets approached by Colin Firth.
Okay.
And he pretty much tells him about the Kingsman service and tells him like, you should join. And he's like, I don't believe you. I think you're just a weird guy in a suit. And then Colin Firth just totally owns these annoying punks in a bar with like an umbrella, and it's fantastic.
All right.
And after that he tells him like you should join, and so he takes this long trialed test into joining the Secret Service, the Kingsman service, and everything. And it's this overall great film. It has fantastic action scenes that are just filmed in this really kind of amazing, almost video game-esque way. It stars also Samuel L. Jackson as the main villain.
Oh, cool.
And he plays the villain in a way where it's not like you almost love him more than hate him, and it's fantastic. It also is the movie that if any of you have ever seen it and heard the song Freebird, you cannot unsee the church scene. That is all I'm going to say.
Interesting. Okay.
And they did the same thing in the second film with Elton John's song "Saturday's All Right for Fighting." Because Elton John's in the movie and he ends up like singing the song while they're fighting, and it's great.
Of course he is. All right.
So they're just great, fun films. If you just want to watch a good action movie but also want to have a good laugh, that's definitely it.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So my first one. I mean, if we're gonna do things based on comics, I guess I can jump right in. So this movie came out in 2010.
Okay.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
That is a good movie.
Yeah, Scott Pilgrim was based on the series of graphic novels by Brian Lee O'Malley, who wrote and drew them, originally in black and white, much like Strangers in Paradise last week. I actually have the hardcover colored versions of them as well. My roommate has the black and white ones, and I was like, well, I want to buy these myself, but I don't want to just buy another set of the things we have in the house. So I got the color ones. Anyways, yeah, so the movie came out in 2010. It had a budget of $85 million and only brought in $48.1 million at the box office, so it tanked.
Wow. But isn't it like a cult classic now?
It is. It has more than made its money on home video release, DVD, Blu-ray, etc. Here's the thing about the release of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Somebody at Universal thought that it would be a good idea to open a fairly big budget movie based on a very obscure Canadian comic in America the same weekend that The Expendables was opening. Literally
it came out that same weekend.
It came out, yeah. So here's the thing. I owned a comic store at the time, right? And my brother and I were like, we the family owned it like this. So we were like, hey, it's Thursday night. Neither of us have to go into work until later in the morning. Let's go to the midnight showing of The Expendables. And we got to the movie theater, and there were 2 lines. And we were like, why are there 2 lines? And we forgot Scott Pilgrim opened the same night.
Oh, no.
So, whoever at Universal made that decision, I don't think they had their job Monday morning. Because, when guys that own comic stores who have been, we'd been promoting Scott Pilgrim like crazy because we knew the movie was coming out, and we forgot that it was that weekend because there was so much hype behind The Expendables, which was a movie that had, was starring every 80s and 90s action movie star that we had grown up watching.
Yep.
And finally we got them all in one movie, and heck yeah, we're going to go see that, right?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out Scott Pilgrim was the infinitely better movie.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Expendables was kind of garbage, but boy, did it make a lot of money. And Scott Pilgrim didn't make any money at all, and holy cow, that movie is amazing.
Yeah.
So Scott Pilgrim takes place in Canada, because that's where Brian Lee O'Malley is from. I want to say in Toronto. And it's the story of a kid named Scott Pilgrim and his band Sex Bob-omb, and kind of their misadventures. And Scott meets this girl named Ramona Flowers and has a huge crush on her. But because of the weirdness of comic books and video games and movies, the plot is he has to defeat her 7 evil exes in order to win the right to date her.
Isn't one of them Chris Evans?
Yeah. One of them is Chris Evans. One of them is Brandon Routh. So Scott, played by Michael Cera, has to defeat Captain America and Superman.
Well, you're screwed.
Also, his ex-girlfriend in the movie is Brie Larson. So that means that he had dated Captain Marvel.
It's funny looking at that 10 years later, just going
yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
Scott had it going on.
So yeah. It's funny. So Scott was played by Michael Cera. Ramona Flowers was played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who's been in a ton of stuff since then. And then Chris Evans and Brandon Routh, as we mentioned, Brie Larson, Aubrey Plaza from Parks and Rec, Jason Schwartzman, Anna Kendrick. The list of actors who went on to become a big deal after this movie is ridiculously huge.
Wait, didn't Michael Cera? Is it Michael Cera that went on to play Lex Luthor?
No, that was someone else whose name escapes me.
Okay, because I know it's Michael Cera, Andy Samberg, the kid from Victorious, and one other actor all look the same in some way, shape, or form.
I can see that.
I can't remember which one is which. Who played Lex?
Scott Pilgrim was directed by Edgar Wright, who did Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, and was one of the writers on Ant-Man. And was going to direct Ant-Man before creative differences between he and Disney led to them parting ways. So yeah, good. It's a really good pedigree for a movie. Just someone made the boneheaded decision to open it the same weekend as The Expendables, and it didn't do very well in the theater. No. I can say that. So I listen straight up. There's so many comics come out that it's impossible to keep track of all of them as they're happening.
Yeah.
But so Scott Pilgrim, the comic, is 6 volumes. I had read the first 5 of them going into the movie. The 6th one came out the same week as, or within a couple weeks of the movie, maybe 2 weeks. It was the same month, at least. I intentionally held off. I was like, I'm going to read these 5, and then I'm going to see the movie, and then I'm going to read the book. and finish that. I will say that it's not possible to adapt all of it into one movie, but what they did was really close. It's the greatest hits of Scott Pilgrim on, like, hey, we have effectively like a 5-hour, 5-6 hour story here in the comic, and they condense it down to just under 2 hours. Brian Lee O'Malley was there working with Edgar Wright, like to and was like one of the writers on the script and everything. So like, the original creator had his say in everything. But yeah. So Scott Pilgrim versus the World is a lot of fun, especially if you grew up playing video games in the 80s and 90s. If you are a music fan, all of the bands are based on video game puns. For example, Sex Bob-omb is not the Sex Pistols and not a Bob-omb from Mario Brothers. There's the band Crash and the Boys, which is an old, like, obscure Nintendo game. There's the band The Clash at Demon Head, which is a combination of The Clash and the NES game Clash at Demon Head. So there's a lot of fun in jokes for people who get it.
Nice.
Yeah. And last I checked, I think it was streaming on Netflix, so it might still be there. So if you haven't seen it or you want to see it again, you can go to Netflix after you are done listening to us talk about other things to watch.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Steph, number 2.
All right, so my next one is, it's an interesting choice. It's actually probably, out of all of the movies that I've talked about and mentioned and referenced, it is probably the biggest standout out of all of them. So originally I was going to talk about another film, and I was super excited to talk about it because it's one of my favorites. Okay. And then I discovered it came out in 2009. I thought it was 2010.
Oh no.
And it was going to be the movie Angels and Demons.
Okay.
Based off, that's
the Dan Brown book, right?
Yeah, the Dan Brown book that they made into a movie starring Tom Hanks and Ewan McGregor, and it is all time one of my favorite films.
Is it the sequel to the Da Vinci Code? Is that what that is?
Movie wise, yes. Book wise, it's the prequel.
Okay.
My mom told me that.
Okay.
I remember it, but
all right.
But yeah, no, but I was going to talk about that, and then I was like, oh, it's the wrong decade. Okay, well, I'll honorably mention it because I love it so much.
Fair enough.
But the movie that I did choose is actually one that I've thoroughly come to enjoy a lot. So it's called Letters to Juliet.
Oh yeah, okay.
It's a romantic comedy. So I gotta throw that out there for anyone who's listening to go, okay, what? The story is about this girl played by Amanda Seyfried, whose name is escaping me at the moment. And her fiance go on a pre-wedding trip to Italy to help him get ready for his grand opening of his restaurant in New York.
Okay. And
while in Italy, her fiance is just so wrapped up in preparing for his new business, he does not spend any time with her.
Mm-hmm.
And during that, they're staying in Verona, and she ends up finding this little nook kind of area of all these women writing letters to Juliet, and they pin them on the wall underneath this balcony that was supposedly Juliet's balcony.
And this is Juliet from Romeo and?
Yes, this is Juliet Capulet, yeah.
Got it, okay.
So she discovers that, and she kind of sits there and she starts writing, because she's a journalist, and she's writing about the fact that there's this whole wall and, Italy and everything. And then these women come by and they start picking off the letters off the wall, and they walk away with the letters, and she follows them and discovers that they're technically the secretaries to Juliet, and they write back to these women in a way that as if like Juliet herself was responding.
Okay.
To kind of give these women closure. And she ends up, and Amanda Seyfried's character finds a letter kind of just wedged in there between the bricks. And it's this really, really old letter from like 50 years ago. And she responds to it anyway. And it turns out the woman is still alive who wrote it.
Okay.
And she comes with her grandson. And together, the three of them go on this trip across Italy to find her lost Romeo.
Oh.
And it's a really sweet story, and it's really a lot of fun. It's got great music in it. If anyone listens to, music from other countries and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It also includes the song Love Story by Taylor Swift, which is pretty much about Romeo and Juliet and falling in love. Okay. But it's a really like good story. I even showed it to my husband, and he's not a big rom-com person, which I mean, not many people are.
I mean,
but he sat and
yeah.
he watched it and he was like, "This is really good."
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Huh.
I don't even know how I came across it. I think there was just like trailers for it, and I was like, "Hey, Mom, we should go see that." And then we went to go see it, and we both loved it. So
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
go check. I don't know where it's streaming. It might be on Prime. Don't quote me on that, but if not, go look for it. It's a good movie.
Yeah. I remember the trailers for that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I never got around to seeing it. So
Yeah, it's one that I will recommend to anyone who's at least willing to sit down and just have a good feel-good movie. It's definitely along that line of a good feel-good movie.
yeah,
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I like feel-good movies. I like feeling good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
I'm trying to type and being bad at it. I want to see if it's streaming anywhere, but I can't type while talking. It's the worst. Let's see. It looks like Google claims that if you have your Hulu subscription, it's on there right now.
there you go.
Yeah. So hey guys, when you're looking for stuff to watch, you can get Scott Pilgrim on Netflix, I'm pretty sure, and Letters to Juliet on Hulu. So
Yep.
It's not letting me check it out on Hulu, but yeah, it says it's there. So I'm gonna believe Google for now, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, both of us just picked movies from 2010, so I'm gonna move us. I'm gonna move us forward to 2011.
One whole year.
I know. No, so I don't have a ton to say about this movie, but I super enjoyed it when I got to see it. It was the 2011 remake of Conan the Barbarian.
Ah, yes.
Which there's a theme amongst 3 of the 4 movies that I picked this time, and it's that they were all box office bombs. Conan had a budget of $90 million and had a box office of $63 million, which is unfortunate because it was great. And I feel like it's a movie that if it came out today, the exact same movie, even if they just re-released it, I think it would, well, not today because COVID-19, but I feel like had this movie come out a year ago, it would have done a lot better for one simple reason. Conan is played by Jason Momoa.
Ah, yes.
I think that guy has become such a bigger star between just Game of Thrones and Aquaman that, oh, that guy played Conan? Yeah, we should probably go see that movie. But at the time, unfortunately, I think maybe the first season of Game of Thrones had happened, and I'm not even sure that it had. He was still basically unknown. I will say that it's not a perfect movie. There are a lot of people who think that the 80s version starring Arnold Schwarzenegger is a better movie, and I don't think that they're wrong, but they're also very different movies.
Yeah.
And not that this is a one-to-one comparison, but it would be sort of like saying that you like Adam West Batman better than Michael Keaton Batman, right? Or vice versa, right? Like, yeah, they're both Batman. Yeah, they're both Conan, but they're so completely different.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
Right? And actually, there was a bigger gap in time between the 2 Conan movies than there was between the 2 Batman movies. So, it is what it is. I will say that this one is super violent. It's very rated R. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've seen it once or twice on home video since seeing it in theaters. I think it holds up pretty well. What's the guy that played Hellboy? Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman's in it. Rachel Nichols plays the love interest. It's, there's no, like, it's not, if you want a cool high octane sword and sandal action movie, it's pretty great. It's pretty great. If you're looking for something with a whole bunch of depth and layers, you're looking in the wrong place. Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, Conan 2011, which again, last I checked, it was streaming in a couple places. Let me double check. I should have written this down. Again, apparently if you have Hulu, it's on there.
There you go.
Yeah. If you have not seen the Jason Momoa Conan movie, apparently you can on Hulu. So
there you go.
Yeah. So that's I mean, yeah. Like I said, not a lot to say about the movie. It's cool. It's bloody. It's violent. It's Conan.
It's Conan.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
All right. So it's interesting. All of the movies we've listed so far have either been from 2010 or 2011, because I'm counting that one as well.
Sure.
This next one is not from 2010 or 2011. It is from 2016.
That's okay.
Yes. So a lot of Star Wars has come out in the past decade.
That's pretty true.
From, the animated stuff from Clone Wars to Rebels to Resistance, to the video games, to the books, the whole 9 yards. But obviously we had the new movies, which included 7, 8, 9, Solo, and Rogue One. And choosing between the 5 films was a little difficult for me, because I'm going to say this now, I enjoyed all of them.
Sure.
I really enjoyed all of them. Solo was a wonderful surprise. I absolutely loved it. Completely lost my mind when Darth Maul came on screen, because he's my favorite villain.
Yep.
But, when I actually thought about, out of all of them, which one did I like the most, and it is actually Rogue One.
Okay.
It was just interesting, because I know a lot of people have their, everyone has their say about what is good and not good about the new films. Right. But specifically Rogue One, everyone seems to have like this overlying opinion of either they really, really liked it or they really, really didn't.
Yeah.
And my thing, and this has always been my thing, I really enjoy when stories just perfectly come together. Like there's just like connector points that just blend everything together. I really do love that.
Okay.
But it's also just, Rogue One's a great action movie. It's got a great, sense of humor in the form of K2SO, which is played by Alan Tudyk, which I think is fantastic. It's got great, it has really great character moments in the manner that we barely even know these characters, and already we're kind of invested in them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. It brought back actors from the prequel trilogy in the form of Bail Organa and Mon Mothma. I think I missaid her name again. I'm sorry for everyone who's listening. They also, they brought back, Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, but they also made reference to the Rebels TV series by showing the droid from the series roll by in one moment. You overhear on one of the speakers at one point, Captain Syndulla, please report to the hangar bay, and it's like, what? Hera's here?
Okay.
And it's really nice how it weaves, and plus, out of every moment from the new films that made me freak out and really just enjoy them that much more, the one thing that always gets me is the freaking hallway scene with Vader.
Yeah, everyone seems to love that scene.
It is such a great scene. The music is amazing, and that's just for the whole film too. But like the music in that scene is just amazing. And there was a YouTuber called Cinema Wins, who did a review of it, and he gives like a point or like a win for everything he likes about it. And that scene, all you hear is just the buzzer going ding 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 ding, because he like fell asleep on the buzzer. But it's just but I thoroughly loved Rogue One. I loved the story, I loved the action, I loved the characters, from Jin to Cassian to the pilot to Chirrut, all of them. And it definitely opened up the audience who have never really read any of the expanded universe stuff that, stuff like this happens a lot in the expanded universe. That's you just true. Never knew it before.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So I saw Rogue One in theaters. I got to be honest, I'm one of those people that didn't really like it.
Yeah.
I like moments. I think Jen Erso is a great character. Is it K250? Is that, or K2SO?
K2SO.
K2SO. Like he's fun. The blind Jedi whose name escapes me, and the actor that plays him escapes me.
His name is Chirrut, and he is technically
not a Jedi.
I forgot. He's not a Jedi, but he's
okay.
He's someone who kind of like worships and protects the Jedi name type of thing,
okay.
Like a sage almost.
Regardless, he was great. The hallway scene is cool. I personally, I'm of the opinion that the scene, it was cool to see Vader slaughter a bunch of people, right? Because that's one thing that we never got to really see in the other movies. We heard about how dangerous he was, but we never got to see it.
He is.
Yeah, I am of the opinion that that scene is scarier if you don't see Vader kill anyone. If you just, right, you have the moment where they open the door, they all go in, it's black, and then you see the lightsaber open, right? And then you see that it's Vader, and then if you cut, right, to just the door and you hear people screaming and stuff, like, I feel like that also would have been really cool. But also I'm a big fan of leaving things to people's imaginations so that it can be so much worse.
Oh, yeah.
I am very impressed that Rogue One is, a sentence and a half in the opening crawl of the first Star Wars movie. And they managed to turn that sentence and a half into an entire movie. That's cool. Yeah. I will give them all the credit in the world for that. I just don't like movies where the good guys, spoiler, where the good guys don't make it.
No, I definitely agree.
And that, like, that fact, and they had, like, I mean, again, it's the opening crawl to the first Star Wars movie, but, like, knowing that, like, hey, these guys aren't gonna win, like, that takes the whole movie down a whole bunch for me.
Yeah. It also adds a different flavor when you watch episode 4.
Yeah. It does, it had to happen that way because it was written that way before anyone even thought of turning that sentence and a half into a movie. Yeah. I just, it bummed me out. Like, I left the movie sad, and I don't like leaving movies sad because I want them to be entertainment that leaves me happy.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree on that front. And I admit, usually I like when the good guys win. I think it's because it's the fact that I already know what happens next, and the fact that they ended it right as episode 4 would start.
Right. Yeah. No, and that's cool. So that is cool. Yeah.
It's like, okay, I feel saddened by this, but it's also a thing where I don't think I had completely gotten emotionally attached to these characters, and also just kind of seeing that, yeah, we saw the Death Star blow up Alderaan, but we didn't realize that it could focus its energy and just blow up cities.
Sure. Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. So no, it's not a bad movie. Just I have my nitpicks as a very, very casual fan of,
and that is fine.
So yeah. But you know what? Not every movie has to be for every person.
Exactly.
For example, my next pick, Jupiter Ascending. Jupiter Ascending came out in 2015. It was directed by the Wachowskis. It stars Mila Kunis and Channing Tatum. It had a budget somewhere between $176 to $200 million, and it brought in 183.9. So it made about its production money back. It definitely did not make its advertising money back. Here's the thing about Jupiter Ascending is it's not a good movie.
No.
But it's so close to being one. And that's the reason that I wanted to talk about it. It's actually one of my favorite movies to talk about as being an interesting failure, because everything about this movie should have been better than it was. It had all of the elements of being a good movie, except for the part where it's a good movie. And I don't know what to change. I don't know if things needed to be taken out. So Mila Kunis plays a young poor girl, right? And it turns out she's actually an intergalactic space princess, basically. And Channing Tatum is like a weird, like, hybrid wolf guy with wings. And they go on adventures in space, and she has to go do princessy things, blah, blah, blah. And meets, like, the royal family, and they're all assholes. And I feel like, I remember when I walked out of the theater, I was like, man, I want to like this movie more than I do. And I also felt like it was a trilogy that got condensed into one movie. And I could see where you would write, like, oh, you take this part and you expand it. You take this part and you expand this a lot, and you take the third act and you, like, expand so much, and you could, like, it felt like there could have been other scenes added into it to make it bigger. At the very least, that movie could have been 2 movies without too much difficulty. And I feel like Warner Brothers just told the Wachowskis, like, okay, but you also just did Speed Racer, and that didn't do very well. So we're not going to fund multiple movies. We'll do one.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like, it's just kind of unfortunate it came out in 2015 in the middle of, like, I don't know, the MCU, in like right after, the Scott Pilgrim, right?
Mhm.
Right as, and then like right after Jupiter Ascending is where we got all the new Star Wars movies. So
Yep.
like it was just surrounded by a whole bunch of movies that were better.
Mhm.
And I feel like if Jupiter Ascending had come out, even 5 years earlier, I think it would have gotten a better rap.
Mhm.
If it had come out, 10 years earlier in 2005, I think it would have been like beloved.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, it came out at a weird time, and also there had to have been some production issues that no one has really talked about, or I haven't been able to find anything about.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's fascinating. If you get the chance to watch it, and you don't mind killing 2.5 hours, I recommend it. Just to see what happened
Mhm.
when everyone really tried to make a good movie and just kind of couldn't. It looks like it's on Netflix right now, actually.
Well, there you go.
So look, I would say it's worth watching, but maybe save your money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're already, okay, so it is on Netflix. So if you're already a Netflix subscriber, and you need to kill a couple hours, you could do it in worse ways.
Yeah.
It's 2 hours and 7 minutes. So, yeah. But you're not going to rush out and buy the Blu-ray. So.
Mhm.
All right, Seth, what's your last one?
So my last one was the obvious one for the 2010s for me, which is interesting because it's like, okay, wouldn't the Star Wars one be the obvious one for you? And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. Because I love Star Wars so much,
Right.
and I love all the new films. I love, Force Awakens. I love Last Jedi. I love even Rise of Skywalker. You heard me say it here, folks. But the movie I actually picked is a Disney animated film.
Okay.
And it's not Frozen. Let me just clarify that now. It is not Frozen. I did love Frozen. I did see it in theaters. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
But it's kind of oversaturated in its own way just because of the fact that, and this is something interesting. This is something that I have actually learned through a little bit of discussion with friends who work at Disney and a few other things. Elsa and Anna are not officially a part of the Disney Princess brand.
No, they are not, because they're part of the Frozen brand, and the Frozen brand is big enough to stand on its own.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just pointing that out there for anyone who didn't know that. I think I've said it before, but I'm just reminding people. But I did really enjoy Frozen. I loved Frozen 2 more.
Sure.
Which came out last year.
Yeah.
I loved it more. I actually even watched it on the airplane back from San Francisco before this whole quarantine happened.
Okay.
Because it's just that good.
Yeah.
But my favorite is actually the 2010 film, which started kind of well, I guess it didn't really start. I guess Princess and the Frog started it, but it was the next one after Princess and the Frog, and it was Tangled.
Oh yeah, yeah. Tangled is a lot of fun.
I love that movie more than I should. Like it is actually starting to compete with my love in the sense of like how often I've been watching it and how much I'm quoting it with The Lion King and Anastasia, and those numbers are ridiculous. For any of you who haven't seen Tangled, first off, it's been 10 years. Go watch it. It's on Disney Plus. Secondly, the movie is it's based off the fairy tale of Rapunzel, the girl with the long blonde hair who lives in a tower. But unlike the actual fairy tale where I think she knows she's a princess and she gets taken at a very young age. She gets molded into believing that Mother Gothel is her mother, and has magical hair that, heals people when she sings. And she gets rescued by Flynn Rider, who is this swashbuckling rogue who had just stole the crown from the kingdom of Corona.
Mm-hmm.
And they go on this adventure, and they've only known each other for like 3 days. And this is where I think this is really interesting, because most Disney princess stories are like, oh, you meet them for like a day and then you fall in love with them. It's like in a matter of 3 days, they wrote probably one of the best love stories, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way they watched the growing between Rapunzel and Flynn, or actually his name is Eugene, but still. And it was so good that, everyone's been demanding a sequel. And for everyone who's demanding a sequel, stop, go to Disney Plus and watch the TV series.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I have watched the Aladdin series. I have watched the Little Mermaid series. Any of them that have been based off of, like, the movies. And all of them are good. But Tangled takes it to another level in some way that I can't really describe how. And it's even better than those series.
Oh, right.
And it does a really good job of just tying a bow on, what would have been a sequel movie. They just did it in a series, and it's fantastic. I love it. I recommend it. Plus, it's got great musical numbers, and it's just so well done. Go watch Tangled, guys. It's such a good movie. I love it so much.
Yeah, I've only seen it once or twice, so I definitely need to watch it again. And when I saw it, it was closer to when it got released than now. So it's been probably close to that 10 years. It's probably been at least 8 years since I've seen it. But yeah, I got the Disney Plus, so I might as well throw that on. When I'm having trouble sleeping at some point. So yeah, and it is fun and lighthearted and everything. So for sure, yeah. Good choice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Andy, do you have another?
I have one more.
Okay.
So we're going back to 2015.
Okay.
So and I'm gonna go with Straight Outta Compton.
Interesting choice.
Yes. Yeah. I know it sounds like this choice is me pandering to the protests that are going on right now. Pandering's the wrong word, or standing in. Regardless, listen, I really liked this movie in theaters. I wasn't working, or I was working like very minimum wage when it came out and didn't have a lot of extra money. And I saw it in theaters 3 times. So like So Straight Outta Compton is the story about the rap group NWA. I am not allowed to say what the first word stands for, but we'll say ninjas with attitude. NWA is a bunch of, it was a bunch of young rappers in Los Angeles in the late 80s who got together and released an album called Straight Outta Compton. So it's the movie is the story of them getting together and them breaking up. And it's set against the backdrop of very racist Los Angeles politics. The Rodney King incident happens during this movie. So this is also the movie of the ones that I mentioned that broke the box office thing, right? Because where all the other ones I talked about were all kind of bombs.
Yeah.
This one had a budget of somewhere between $28 and $50 million. Which is a big disparity. I suspect it was probably a budget of 28 and an advertising budget of another 22 to make it 50 million. Regardless, its box office take back was 201.6 million. No
way.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It did huge money. I went and saw it initially because I was like, I'm not like, I like hip hop, but I'm not the biggest fan of gangster rap.
Yeah.
And NWA was kind of the start of gangster rap. I'm sure someone who knows more about hip hop and rap culture than I do will say, well, actually, it was these people. And I am perfectly willing to be corrected on that.
Yeah.
But just, because NWA had such a big influence on American pop culture, I was like, I should see this movie. I know that there's going to be some facts that are slightly changed, and it was written by Ice Cube and Dr. Dre and the family members, the other members of NWA and stuff, and I believe Eazy-E's girlfriend. So there are some things that are left out for sure. And there is it does kind of feel like everyone's sort of blaming Eazy-E for them breaking up, which is a little unfair since he's the one that died of AIDS and isn't around to defend himself. I don't know if that is honestly how everyone feels, and it's just sort of an unfortunate thing about the movie. Regardless, the movie is fantastic. It is a little bit longer. It's 2.5 hours. It is not streaming anywhere currently, unfortunately. It is available to buy digitally, or I was looking this up, and you can buy it from Amazon, iTunes, Vudu, YouTube, Google Play, Fandango, Microsoft, blah blah blah. Right? Anywhere you buy movies, and then so it's like $10 there, and then you could rent it for $3.99 from basically any of them.
Mhm.
If you are at all interested in looking up just straight up some history of American pop culture, it's a good primer. It's a good, it's not going to give you the whole story. It's not going to go into absolutely everything, but for 2.5 hours, it does a pretty good job. The actors they cast all look fairly like the actual rappers.
Isn't one of them their son?
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say I forget his name, but is it Jackson O'Shea Jr., who it's Ice Cube's son, plays Ice Cube. And he looks just like his dad, but with a little bit lighter skin.
Mm-hmm.
But there are moments in the movie where like, oh, I'm looking at Ice Cube. No, I'm not. That's his kid. Because his kid, when the movie was made, is the same age Ice Cube was when the events were happening. Wow. So, yeah.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah. And the movie ends kind of sadly because they do sort of indicate that they were thinking about getting back together, and then Easy dies from AIDS. Spoiler for a real life story, guys. That happened, 27 years ago or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is fantastic. For anyone who wants to support Black Lives Matter, like here you are supporting Black directors, Black actors, Black artists of all kinds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's legitimately a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And I don't know that there's enough good that I can say about this movie.
Okay.
So yeah.
I remember when this movie was coming out because it got so much hype from like everybody. Like everyone I talked to seemed to have an opinion about the movie, and not like a negative one, but just in the sense of like I have to go see it or I'm not going to go see it, or maybe I'll see it if someone drags me type of thing. Like the type of opinions you get when people see trailers to movies.
Right.
And I know for me myself, not that I wasn't interested in seeing it, it was just kind of the thing of like, I'll see it at some point. If I don't see it in theaters, I'll see it at some point.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize, I think until almost the movie came out, that it was actually based off that.
Oh, so you didn't realize it was a true story?
I didn't realize it was a true story. I actually thought it was, and this is just purely on, I think the advertisements I saw and the word of mouth I was hearing from everyone else, assuming what it was going to be about.
Right.
And it wasn't until almost closer to the film coming out that someone told me what it was about, and I sat there and I went, "Wait, what?"
Yeah. And that makes sense. Because I went out and bought the Straight Outta Compton album based on the movie, right? Which a couple of songs I'm kind of into. A couple of them I'm very much not, because again, I'm just not into gangster rap very much.
I'm not into rap much myself, but I do know that that album kind of defined a generation. So
yeah, and I feel like NWA was so big when they were happening, and by the time you would have been conscious of pop culture and stuff, they were gone.
Yeah.
Right. So it makes sense that even though we're only give or take a decade apart, or a decade give or take a couple of years apart, that makes such a big difference in that part of American history.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So after like having conversations with you and a few other people, I've been meaning to sit down and watch it. It's just that because it's nowhere. It's like, well.
Yeah, it is. We're almost out of time, so we'll get through this quick. But yeah, it is kind of unfortunate that movies that aren't streaming anywhere don't get watched. But on the other hand, like movies that are streaming aren't making as much money as people who are paying, as movies that are paid for.
Yes.
Right. So like we are in sort of this weird conundrum as a society where we're all just used to everything streaming everywhere, and not everything can. And like I don't know.
No, it's definitely a weird conundrum. I can definitely agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
So, but hey, if you guys enjoyed the films that we talked about, or you yourself have not seen them, go watch them, or at least go try and find them and watch them if you don't have those streaming services.
Yeah, like I said, everything we talked about except Straight Outta Compton, I'm pretty sure was streaming on Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus.
Yep.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
7 out of 8 are streaming somewhere. So, yeah, it's not going to be hard to find most of them. And again, like I said, Straight Outta Compton, while it's not streaming for free on anything, it is available. You can rent it for $4 and you get 24 hours to watch it. And that's, enough time. So
that's plenty.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us this week. Like I said, we will be taking off, or I will be taking off one of the upcoming weeks. Again, Steph, if you and Josh can work things out where you guys can do an episode, that would be great. Hit us up on social media. Atomic Monsoon on Instagram and Facebook. Atomic Monsoon with the _ on Instagram. Email us atomicmonsoon@gmail.com. Check us out on Redbubble. And rate, review, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast aggregator.
Do it.
All right, guys. Hey, be safe out there, and have a happy start of your summer.
Bye, everybody.